Tim O'Malley and Tim Priester for Irish Illustrated's first virtual incident analysis, founding a 35-minute press conference with Brian Kelly. He hosted more than 20 reporters today on a Zoom press conference. Tim, I think other than no Irish players have tested positive for the coronavirus being the top news, what are some of your key takeaways from today?
Yeah, well, first of all, with that, we didn't get a clarification as to how many guys were actually tested. So I'm not sure really what that tells us, but it's certainly a positive sign that whoever has been tested, has tested negatively. But, he talked about Ireland a little bit, and I know Jack Swarbrick has been reluctant to talk about alternatives. Brian Kelly mentioned that they were discussing some alternatives. Certainly there's some options within the United States, whether it's, we've talked about Annapolis, whether it's Baltimore, whether it's Philadelphia, some of the familiar places where Notre Dame has played before. Those are options, but it's too early to talk about that. I want to get a hold of Jack Swarbrick and press him on it, but I know he's not going to give in that area right now. He doesn't want to talk about that. So that is still on hold with regard to Notre Dame Navy.
On hold, but they are in discussions at this point. He kind of made the point, look, we can't wait. Brian Kelly used the date May 15th a lot for a time that he, as a football coach, is going to be able to kind of reconvene with the university to discuss what they can do possibly on campus after July 6th, when, as of now, there will not be a first summer school session on campus. You don't know about it yet for July 6th. So he pointed out, look, I don't have the answers and Jack doesn't have the answers, but the discussions have to be going on because they cannot wait until, and he used the date again, they cannot wait until May 15th to just decide if they're going to be sending everybody abroad to play football.
I thought it was interesting him talking about recruiting and, doing a lot of FaceTime recruiting with guys and to quote him, digging deep into our distinctions. I found that interesting. He also used the expression, or also said that, in talking to the recruits, if there were no football, what university would you want to be at?
Right.
Which is a great way, the whole 4 for 40 thing that Notre Dame likes to play up, and under the circumstances, that's exactly the route for them to go.
And Kelly did a good job, I think, of not giving an opinion on if they will play, when they will play, and all that. But he said, all I do daily is prepare that we will be playing. And a lot of the questions started being asked of him, like, of course, he used that July 1st date. I think he backpedaled by 1 week on it today when he said you need 3 to 4 weeks before training camp. But just talking to strength and conditioning coach Matt Bayless, I think that came from him a little bit. He wants his players to not have so many risks of injuries going into camp. And training camp, as you kind of noted right away, it might not be the training camp he's used to, and this is all about adjusting at this point.
He was asked about freshmen and said that he hasn't given it any thought, but I mean, it only makes sense, right?
Oh, it's a good question.
The early entry freshmen did not get the benefit of spring practice. Whenever they get started, it's going to be in a less conventional way.
Right.
And so that, these freshmen are at a disadvantage, which is why, I always say redshirt freshmen more than ever, you would think, and there's so many redshirt freshmen that they would turn to them. But that only makes sense. It's difficult and again, depending upon what position that they play,
right,
per se, it can be more difficult for some than others. And for example, we talk about Michael Mayer. Well, he's going to be 2B at the very least. Well, can he adapt? Will he have enough time to adapt? He's got the physical characteristics to do that, but it's in terms of mental preparation for that. I know we're talking about a lot of unknowns, but that's kind of the whole idea, or everything that we're going through here is it's one unknown after another.
Well, one known we have, and we'll get into this more, we'll have a podcast tomorrow, but with the SWAT leaders kind of taking control of the team, I did ask Coach Bayless, and the incoming freshmen that are not early enrollees are not allowed to be involved in that, and that with the SWAT leaders, and that's kind of what they're relying on right now. I mean, it makes sense. I thought maybe the NCAA could lessen that a little bit, the rules on that. But look, if they were at home in high school right now, they would not be involved in those SWAT meetings, of course. So they are not involved in that second semester. I wanted to press him more. We submitted our questions on what they've lost in terms of skill development, but he mentioned he kind of thought we might be losing more in team building, in that they're not together building camaraderie.
And team building will be a huge part when they do reconvene.
Yeah,
that's what they'll start with and do the most. Last thing I'd like to say in this instant analysis, it sounded like Brian Kelly has quote, giving some pep talks to some doctors and nurses.
Yeah.
And at the end of it all, he thanked all the people that in the medical profession, as you can relate to, Tim. I mean, the sacrifices that are being made. He's got a great appreciation for that, and I think that's a pretty cool thing.
And I thought, just before we take off, he was asked about his loss of control, and I think we've all kind of joked that, hey, college football coaches, you're no longer in control of the situation right now. And he said it's not a loss of control, it's a need for structure that comes from his players, and that is what they've tried to give the players with this program. And it's a program that always has to be adjusted, but they know it's going to last at least through the end of this spring semester. And we'll be back with an Irish Illustrated podcast on Thursday afternoon. That's all from Tim Prister and Tim O'Malley after a good solid 35 minutes with Brian Kelly on a Zoom conference call.